Have you cried enough? Have you laughed enough? Have you been inspired enough? I don't think so. This is what documentaries can do. And this is what film festivals like Hamptons Doc Fest does. And we thank you so much for coming. Most documentaries you don't get to see, especially shorts. They're very hard to get out there. So this is a very special time. And I want to welcome Liza Donnelly and Kathleen Hughes. Liza, Kathleen. Keep them laughing. So Liza and I have known each other for a few years. We were introduced by a mutual friend, and she was telling me about this film that she wanted to do. And I thought, oh no, films are so hard to get made. And you're not a filmmaker.
I am now.
You are now, that's for sure. Exactly. And so, how'd you pull it off?
I talked to, like you, I talked to any documentarian who would talk to me, and it turns out you guys are very welcoming, kind, and encouraging, even though I didn't know what you were thinking.
I wasn't going to say.
Yeah, I know. And I spent the pandemic researching and took classes at Sundance online to figure out how to do this. And then I met Doug Block somehow. Doug's in the audience. And he introduced me to Judith Mizraki, our wonderful producer who unfortunately couldn't make it today. And then I met Kathy at a friend's birthday party. And the team just came together. And I have and Andy Fredericks has worked with Kathy for 30 years, our editor. Amazing people who know so much of what they're doing and agreed to do it with me. So I'm very grateful.
And what did you think?
Probably a little bit like you. I thought this is such a good idea and so interesting. And Liza had already written a book about the women who draw cartoons for the New Yorker going back to the beginning. But I did wonder, where were we going to get the funding?
Always the hardest part.
And the fact is, in terms of the history, there's no movies there's no archive of these earlier cartoonists except their work, and animation is really expensive. How are we going to do it? But it seemed like fun, so I signed on. And here we are.
And here we are. What was the process like? I mean, I loved that you had all the women together in one room. Did that come as a natural thing? Did you say, oh, let's do this? Where did that come from?
Well, the original idea was to have me drawing and talking to the women one-on-one, because that's what I used to do with my husband's a cartoonist also for the New Yorker. He's Michael Maslin. We used to sit on the floor with our girls and draw with them, and it was a great way to spend time together and share drawings. And I thought, wouldn't that be a great idea with my fellow cartoonists? So that was the start. And I knew we put the history in there too. And then we got access to the Algonquin. Judith had a contact there, the manager. And we thought, let's have more cartoonists around a round table. And Kathy,
how are we going to shoot
Kathy,
that?
experienced filmmakers, was, that's so hard to do. I'll let you speak to that.
It was hard to do, but partly because when you put 10 people around a table, you have to see them and hear them. And it was a little daunting, but our DPs just threw in, literally. They brought in all the equipment that they owned and didn't charge us for it, and we pulled it off.
This is what documentary filmmaking is.
Yeah, there were like six cameras, right?
For some reason, you do
cameras.
a lot of it for free.
Yeah, 10 lavs. I mean, the sound unto itself is a thing, but
how many cameras?
6.
6 cameras.
Yeah.
And the one-on-ones were shot at the Society of Illustrators in New York. If you've never been, you should check it out.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place.
They gave us that space for free also. And that had cameras overhead, which the Algonquin did not. But
no, would have
anyway.
been nice, but that was a bridge too far.
And was somebody directing the cameras? Because I've directed multi-cameras, and it's very complicated. It becomes like a sporting event, you know. But when you see the NFL, they've got 50 cameras and 25 people directing them. What was this? Was they just on their own, do what you can do?
For the most part, yes, because what they didn't bring were monitors. I mean, there was one little monitor and you couldn't hear on it. I mean, we were a bit of a, you know, ragtag crew in that regard.
Well,
but they did a great job. Our DPs were wonderful.
Yeah.
And yeah. So.
You pulled it off. Now, I want to ask you about interviewing. Interviewing for a documentary is very, very different from talking to somebody that you're a friend with. You know, hi, how are you? Fine. That doesn't really play very well on screen. Did you have conversations about that? What was that process like to get people to talk?
They were very game, these women. They were wonderful. So Kathy and I came up with, we selected the cartoonists. It was a long process, and I knew most of them. Only one of them I had not met in person, but I knew their work very well. And I made a list of questions, rough questions about them and their work and what I knew I might be able to get from them in terms of the art form or their humor. And I had that questions on the floor. And Kathy advised me on the questions too after I wrote them. But it was a kind of an informal talk. And there's so much good footage that's not in here too. So it's sad.
We call that killing our darlings.
Yeah.
Where you have things that you just love, 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 love. There's no room for everything. We just have to let that go.
And it was hard to interview them and make it seem natural in such an unnatural place. But
for people that work by themselves, do you find cartoonists are talkative? Or are, you know, you're all there by yourselves? Or does that not even come into play? Some are and some aren't.
yeah, some are and some aren't. There's one woman at the round table who barely said anything. She's very young and new to the world, of this world. And
She was probably scared shitless of all of you.
perhaps, but we really were wanting her to speak more, but what can you do? I mean, I was like that when I was 24, so
Yeah.
I was afraid to say anything.
You're still a little shy when all is said and done.
Am I?
Yes.
And Kathy, there as the director, when there was the one-on-ones, were there times where you said, "How about talking about this?" Was there
Yeah.
times talk about that? Because a lot of filming, you know, that was 1/10 of what you talked about, but you might have gone off track. And as the director, you're thinking, as directors, we're always thinking about editing. How's this going to cut together? How's that going to show? Well, you started to talk about this, but maybe you could have followed up. So were there times where you go, hey?
Sure. Yes. I'm trying to remember a time that was interesting in terms of a story. I don't know that a lot of it was, can you go back and name the editor who you're talking about who didn't allow you to put your picture in, or can you, it was sort of thinking of, you always are thinking, to your point, about the edit and whether the story or even the anecdote will make sense. And in this case, we did have that extra layer, which I had never done before, which was they were talking and drawing at the same time. So you kind of didn't want to interrupt. I didn't want to interrupt what they were drawing. So it was an interesting process. It was kind of fun, though.
Kathy would always ask, after the solo shoots, I'd say, Kathy, what else do I need to, have I missed something, and then she'd think of something, and then she'd also ask the crew, anybody have anything else they want to know about? Sure. And that was great.
That was something I learned a long time ago. Often the crew is sitting there quietly the entire time, and most of them are listening, and they often catch things that we don't.
And that doesn't always happen. Filmmaking is a very collaborative sport. And I have always found the same thing,
Right.
that you can take people's suggestions and not have it be threatening to you.
Yeah.
Whereas some people, I guess maybe they feel threatened and they don't want to hear from, this is my thing. As a New Yorker subscriber, as a proud New Yorker subscriber, I always look at the cartoons as a way that you're interpreting the world for us, that you're looking at things and you're both making us laugh and you're making an incisive comment. But what was so interesting in the film is how much of those incisive comments are actually talking about you yourselves as the cartoonists, and I never thought about that. Have you thought about that before this film? Is that maybe for yourself, but for others as well?
I'm glad you picked up on that, because that was my other motive for the film, was to make people realize that it's, as I say in the end, it's not just about the joke, it's about people's lives. And we're sharing our lives. It may be very disguised in the cartoon, but it's there. And when I was attracted to the New Yorker as a young person because I liked the fact that the New Yorker, I perceived it treated its cartoonists as artists, that people had a vision of the world, a way of looking at the world that hopefully is funny most of the time, sometimes not, but
purposefully not. Not that it didn't work, but
right.
Purposely not.
Right. Yeah. So I just like the way humor can get at subjects and get at thinking. Like Emily Flake says, I draw to figure myself out and figure the world out, you know? And so women have been, except for the 20s, women were, in the early part of last century, we didn't hear from them. And it was about men's humor, as I say in the film. So now we're hearing about women's lives through humor, and sometimes it's very specific to the woman's experience, but hopefully it's done well enough so that even people of other genders can understand the humor in it. So
yeah, absolutely. We have time for a couple of questions. Does anybody have anything they'd like to bring down here? Yes. Here's a microphone.
Yeah, terrific film. I really enjoyed it. I'm curious about the New Yorker. It looks like you got a lot of cooperation from them and everything, and I just wondered what their reaction was to it and to what level they were cooperative and helpful or not helpful in the making of the film.
Well, David Remnick was supportive of it verbally since the beginning, since I thought of the idea, and then we were on our own. So we basically funded it on our own. We did it on our own, and then we started speaking with their video department, where they have these. I don't know if you guys know this. You probably do. They have a wonderful part of their site, which is all short documentaries, and they've won some Academy Awards. So we were in dialogue with that department, Paul Moakley, and he eventually said, "We love it." So, or I love it, and so it became a New Yorker film, and they did give us the rights to the old cartoons, which we needed to get, which could have been very expensive.
Very expensive. Yeah. Another question? One more question. Make it a really good one.
And can I just say one thing?
Okay, right there.
Can I just say one thing before the last question? Is that it was really an honor to be with all those other films today. They were fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, they were amazing.
Yeah.
Very moving.
Sorry.
Well, I don't know if this is a really good one, but I was thinking there's all of these really talented cartoonists. How many cartoons, like a month or a year, would the New Yorker be accepting from, like there's so many of you, and where else are those cartoons being, the work that they're doing, where else can they show it, or is it being accepted?
Are there other outlets?
Yeah, are there other Thank you.
Not
That's
really
a really
anymore.
good one.
Not really anymore. So we do 10 a week and maybe sell once a month. So it's and the beauty of that system is that it's always been like that. Is that the more you draw, the better you get, hopefully, and you learn your voice. So, but it's still excruciatingly difficult.
And you're not getting stipends. It's just you get paid if they accept
per cartoon. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, congratulations on a lovely film, and thank you all for
Thank you for
coming.
having us.